good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of the Clipper faithful. Thank you so much for showing up on December 19th. Before the holidays, we got a holiday rush. We got a lot of things to talk about today. We're joined with Jeremy of the Clipper dev team, part of Shipyard, and just a rank and file member like all of us. And we're going to go through our usual kind of monthly what's going on with Clipper and what's coming on up in the next months. And we'll have time at the end to ask anybody. Anybody can ask any questions you want. If any of my captains are in chat, go ahead, feel free to drop that link about where people can put their questions, or you're also welcome to drop them in chat and at me. So, hello to everyone. Happy December. And Jeremy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Yeah, we just got a little fresh snowfall outside, so it's looking Christmassy here.
That's great. Do you put up a tree and stuff like that?
I do.
Yeah,
I
great, great.
do. Yeah, yeah,
My kids are going to my grandmother's house, and there'll be a tree there, so I'm
yeah.
excited about it.
Yeah, the
It's
kids decorate the tree by themselves this year, so it's on autopilot now.
you know what? My kids are like, oh, you probably know that I'm pretty kumbaya hippie, and I love meditation, retreats, stuff like that. But I've had young children, so I haven't been able to follow my hippie dreams. But this year, my wife says that like it's okay. She can handle it. She's got a bunch of family. So I'm going on a 10-day silent meditation retreat, which is pretty absurd with young children. Like, it's slightly selfish, but I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be very healthy.
I know something else about you, and that's that you have a birthday in 2 days.
Oh,
So happy birthday to you, Captain
you
Floss
remembered
Twice Daily.
it. You remembered it before I did. That's exciting. Yeah, thank you so much. Getting up there. But enough about us. Let's talk about our community and the people we got going with us. So we got a lot going on. I'm just going to briefly go through our topics, and we can start wherever you want. We can keep it brief and get to questions, but I know we have the OP farming contract. We're going to talk about the changes to staking. I think a bulk of our time today is going to be going through the first LP report, which I know you put a lot of time into. Kind of an update on what happened with Coves, the OP Retro PGF grant, and as always, talking about veSAIL and why people should stake for it. So that was a lot of topics I just threw at you. It's your Christmas. Which present do you want to unwrap? Your holidays, I should say.
Yeah, I think let's start with retro PGF grant,
Oh, cool.
because that was a real community win, right? I mean, it was a member of the community that flagged to the rest of the community and the team that this is something that we were in and eligible for. We'd already been included on a few ballots, which just I think tells you about the ecosystem that we're in. The team can just be off building, doing what it's doing, and one day someone knocks on the door and says, "Hey, there's this big grant you might be eligible for. We've already submitted you. You just need to make sure that the people who are excited about your project are aware of it." And that's what we did, and it was really exciting to see the whole community come together, get behind the effort. We made the requisite number of ballots, um, and we got comments from members of the OP community. Like, we had no idea people were this excited, right? Because we started 36 hours before the deadline, and it was 24 hours in that we got the quorum, as it were, for the number of ballots we were on. I think 23 is where we're at. So it's just really amazing to see everyone kind of jump into promotion mode, and yeah, we got on those ballots, and we're just waiting to see now kind of how the deliberation process goes, and what the grant is that we're going to be receiving.
Yeah, so let me dive into a little bit more. So I put the Retro PGF grant up on screen, and I believe it was Ayutunde who put it in chat. So I'll make sure to at him. That was a huge flag,
Shout
and I
out.
think so. It says here that it started November 6th and went through December 7th.
Yep.
And come December 5th, Ayatunde puts in chat like, "Hey, there's quite a bit of money that could be allocated to Clipper." I mean, what does the number say? There's something like 30. It's a lot of OP, and OP is doing well right now. It's above $2,
That's right. It's a
and
lot of OP, and for the ballots that we were on, that we were included in, right? We're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of, I think it's like right around 100,000 OP is like a good median number if you just look at kind of what we're up for.
Right.
We there's no way to know if we're going to get all of that, but still, it's definitely worth kind of kicking into gear and doing the
It goes a
kind of
long way.
advocacy.
It goes a long way towards maintaining and developing Clipper. But so Ayatunde in chat December 5th says, "Hey, let's get on the ballot." And the operators had an emergency meeting, and we needed to get on 17 ballots to be considered for, like actually getting some of this grant
Yep.
money. I think we're on maybe 3 to 5, and we had a 24-hour push, and we made it all the way up to 25 ballots in like 18 hours. Everyone was reaching out, finding the people that they knew, and said you should really consider. We did some big like tweet storm about how great Clipper is, and a lot of people are convinced. And now, hopefully, a bunch of OP is going to come Clipper's way. So, great shout out! I love that we get to start there.
Yeah, and I think another shout out to an operator, Barbarossa, who's been running socials since their election last month. This was the first like, hey, have to work right away, real quick, drop what you're doing and make sure this got there. And they did a fantastic job
Yeah,
putting together Twitter threads, making sure that there was good engagement, right? I think you can see the difference between a developer team running the Twitter account versus when Barbarossa took over. And there's a lot more personality to it now. And I think it's a really special thing that the community elected operator is running this 100K plus Twitter account and running it so well. And yeah, for things like that, where it really is the community brings something to the community's attention and the community pushes the message out, it's just seamless. So it really all around, I think, big kudos to whoever on this call was involved in that, and certainly anyone watching for the big push. Because like Ben says, it makes a huge difference in terms of what we're able to focus on from a developer standpoint.
yeah. Shout out to Barbarossa. Shout out to Ayatunde. It's funny because we had 4 operators. Barbarossa got elected a little bit late, but right when he's elected, we pulled him in and said, "All right, get to work. Like, let's,
Yeah,
we got
yeah.
stuff to do here."
By the
So,
way, we have 24 hours.
yeah. So, grats to that. Yeah, the Twitter. I'm like you said, I got a birthday. I won't tell you which birthday it is, but I'm up there. And I'm sort of a social media dinosaur, so having like a young hip person handling it, it's great. It makes a big
Yeah,
difference.
and it's I mean again, you can just look at the quality of the tweets and it's pretty clear to see when Barbarossa took over. So I think the operators in general deserve a major shout out. It's been a couple months now since their election, and
Yeah.
things are in the DAO are running very smoothly, and in terms of how the communities come together and been able to organize some of its own activities, it's really exciting to see.
It's
Right, because I
only
mean, in the summer it was like a theory, and now you're seeing it actually in practice. Working and probably working better than I think in the summer we would have dreamt up.
Yeah, and it only gets smoother as people feel more comfortable in their roles and say,
Yeah,
instead of it waiting to be told what to do, just going out and making
yeah,
it happen, which is what we want because this is the DAO for builders. We want people to
that's what autonomy
empower
is.
themselves. Exactly. All right, cool. Enough patting ourselves on the back. Hopefully, we'll get patted on the head with OP coins, but let's see what's up next.
Sounds
So,
painful.
actually, since we were just talking about OP, do you want to let's stay on OP and can we talk about the OP farming contract and
Yes, the OP farming
another
contract.
thing that was brought to our attention by users,
Yeah, what happened was just before the sale farming contract was launched. The dev team launched a essentially a test for OP farming because we have OP from a previous grant and we wanted to get that out into a rewards pool. Uh, we reconfigured the contract, relaunched it. Everything went very smoothly from a relaunch standpoint, from moving fund standpoint. The only thing that didn't go smoothly is the automatic tracking of and distribution of OP for everyone that is a farmer. However, fortunately, we're working on a blockchain. So the transaction history, transaction amounts, and what portion of the pool your liquidity represents is all very easy to audit. And so there's going to be an airdrop to OP farmers coming up. So definitely before the end of the year. We're going to be taking a snapshot. There was the kind of a surge of activity on OP because of some other things that the community's organized, and we didn't want those farmers to be left out or kind of caught off guard. But there will be an airdrop to. That's right. This is the alpha to OP farmers. So if you have put any liquidity into the OP pool on Clipper between when the farming contract launched, which is I don't want to say the exact date, but I know late July, to when the snapshot is going to be taken, which is this uh, uh, probably this past weekend. So if you add now, you'll be in the next airdrop. Then you will be getting your OP, whatever your farming rewards would have been. As part of this grant, we are looking into relaunching again the OP farming contract, but this time with the automatic farming rewards, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just because that's extra dev work, that's a lot of extra time that we need to put into redoing that contract. So we're waiting for that grant. At which point, when we relaunch, there'll be another snapshot and a second airdrop. So Ayatunde, if you do want to get in on that second airdrop, please provide liquidity to the OP pool on Clipper. As I think we said when the issue was first raised, everyone is going to get every bit of OP that they are owed for farming. There's no question about that. We have publicly auditable OP balances. It is just a matter of when that's happening. Normally, as everyone knows, you would harvest on your own time. In this case, the harvest is coming in the form of an airdrop. OP mainnet. Yes, correct. So if you provide LP or if you provide liquidity on OP mainnet,
The core pool,
then
the
you
OP
are
core pool.
the core pool, OP core pool. So actually, Ben, if you could switch to
Sure,
to
sure.
exactly what that is,
Sure, sure. I
since
wish
since we have
this
this visual medium.
the browser that I have up, is not the one that I keep OP in, but I'll bring it anyway. So I'm gonna go to Optimism mainnet.
Optimism mainnet.
Yeah, and I don't know if while I have it off screen it doesn't show. So I'm in Optimism mainnet, and I'm gonna
Oh, because
go
you're on
to
staking right now. Go to earn.
and I'll go to earn and farm tokens.
Yes.
So here's it's up. I do. I promise you, I have a good amount of OP in here. It's just not under this
No,
wall,
no one's
under this
judging you, Ben.
browser.
If you are judging Ben, please stop.
Yeah,
He's kind enough to demonstrate on the
I
fly.
got mad OP.
So
Don't you worry about it. But just
deposit.
not on this browser.
Right.
Yeah,
Deposit into this. You see the farm icon there.
yeah.
This pool. That is how you earn farming rewards. The rewards are OP. There's going to be a snapshot from the end of July through the middle of December. That's going to be airdropped in the next couple weeks. There'll be a second snapshot when the contract is redeployed. And we don't know when that will be, but it'll be sometime likely in January after we get this OP grant.
So if you just OP core
Ayatunde says you
pool,
need OP in all your
yeah,
wallets. I might agree with that.
yeah. OP core pool. If you had it in here from July to December when we launch it, you're going to get an airdrop. After that, there'll be a second airdrop. But at some point, is it going to be like sale on Ethereum where you can kind of harvest at your own?
Yes.
That's the plan.
So
That's the demo.
that is
Yeah.
after the grant is received, we will then be able to reinvest that into the
Got it.
dev time that's required to do those things because the grant is for activity on and generating more use of Optimism L2. And we see farming as a major part of that.
Yeah.
Because we have this opportunity to kind of reset the farming contract, we're putting that into it. And that was one of the things that we put into the grant. So I
Great.
think that it just makes sense.
People, get your money into OP. All right, I see some questions from. By the way, Ayatunde, I'm so glad that you're here. You need OP in all your wallets. Yes, please provide a way to stake our sale on L2.
Yeah,
So you want to take
but
a
believe
question?
me,
Take questions right now?
I mean,
Yeah.
we're working on it. It is, it is really about launching that contract. Um, across the various L2s. And again, it's just about time and priorities. It's something that we know is a kind of community requirement. So we have it on the roadmap. I just can't tell you kind of where it's going to land on the calendar, but I can tell you it's something that we're absolutely focused on delivering because yeah, it's tough out there
Yeah.
as someone who's part of the community who's also staking sale. I know, yeah, the L1 gas is really tough.
Oh my God, everywhere. Bitcoin, the big kind of like meta on Bitcoin subreddit now is talking about how like everyone, oh, I consolidate all my stuff, and now I've been DCAing like everyone told me. Now I'm trying to consolidate it, and it's like they don't realize that there's 1,000 different transactions, so they're paying for like 1,000 transaction fees instead of one, and it's expensive everywhere. So what I put up on stream, by the way, is
Okay.
sushi.com/Firo, which is our vesting contract. And look, sort of the game plan is just I'm going to wait till I have everything consolidated, all of my payments. And I think this particular contract, there's maybe 2 more months of vesting. And when I have all that, I'll bridge it all at once. And wasn't there someone in chat? It was PM Sis. PM Sis had who's in chat right now. Why don't you explain what you did? He wanted to batch a bunch of transactions together to save on L1 fees. I thought that was pretty interesting. Um,
Smart.
but sis, go ahead and talk about it in chat if you want to. Anything you want to say about sushi.com Furo or L2 coins, or shall we move on to our next topic?
I think so. In terms of furrow, I do really want to hear from the community how that's working for everyone. I mean, the idea was this is an efficient way to make sure that everyone one knows how much is going to be vested to them over what time frame, and kind of this comes with the dashboard that's already built, as Ben's demonstrating here. Uh, this is, we thought, much simpler than building it, and is much more transparent than just saying, "Don't worry, the Merkel's going to take care of you, investing over time, etc." Like here, you can actually physically interact with the information. But if this is not serving you well, then please let me know, let the captains know, let the operators know, because then we would absolutely need to look into alternatives.
And I just withdrew 1,000 FX sale live on stream. Cost me zero point 0.4 cents. Pretty
I
exciting.
love Polygon.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
really do.
Let's move on. Let me see what our other topics are. So we talked about the OP farming contract. Let's talk about since the transition seems so nicely, right? Like we did retro PGF about OP, then we went to OP farming. We talked about farming and rewards. So let's talk now about staking and smoothing, if you will, on Ethereum main contract or mainnet with sale. And I'm referring to the monthly buyback deposits and the
Yep.
smoothing of the APY and the new feature of a live
Yeah,
rate
I was gonna
tracker.
say
Yeah.
that the new feature should really help kind of demonstrate that. But the
So I'll go to stake sale on mainnet. Would you like me to put that up, maybe? All
yes.
right, I'm on it. While you talk. Sorry for interrupting. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this when we first launched that the staking APY was a guess, right? We kind of sat down, did our figures, and said, "All right, what do we think is going to be the annualized rate at which VE sale grows compared to sale, right? So how much sale we're going to have to purchase the revenues, then put into this VE sale contract." It ended up being much higher than that at first, which we anticipated, but we thought, okay, it'll smooth out over time. What became clear is that that 20% number was not only too low, but also was confusing. So when you look at the staking APY now, that is giving you as close to live as we can get what the current exchange rate growth is between VE sale and sale over the past 7 days. So you're looking at a backwards view of the last 7 days and the growth in the exchange rate, which is a kind of a weird mathematical thing to have to calculate in your head on the fly, uh, annualized. So you would have to essentially divide that number by 52 to get to the actual weekly growth. And again, it's the growth in the exchange rate. So what we're seeing between veSAIL and SAIL is you have one contract that owns part of or some assets from this other one. The growth of the value of that veSAIL contract is what we're tracking when we're looking at the staking APY. Because that APY, like the returns that you're receiving, is actually just the difference between what the exchange rate was when you staked versus what the exchange rate is at any point where you're thinking about unstaking.
Right.
And so it's like, because it's almost like required that you have some calculus in your head, we thought, let's just give you a number that tells you kind of the backward looking 7 days annualized and lets you know how it's been performing over that past week. To make that number as accurate as possible, we've also smoothed out the purchases of SAIL using Clipper revenue so that that number will actually move week over week. It's not just going to be static for a week and then there's going to be this like movement back to parity essentially between these exchange rates, and then the gap will widen again. Not all the way to exact parity. I mean, closer to parity, and then it'll jump. So just making sure that rather than have this like steep step change, we've smoothed it out into 4 buys over a month rather than just one. I hope that for the mathematically inclined in the community, which I assume there are many, that was a sufficient explanation. For the non-mathematically inclined, if you stake your SAIL for veSAIL and you hold that veSAIL, it will increase in SAIL terms in value, period.
And the way that works, correct me if I'm wrong, but this 1 veSAIL equals 1.531 SAIL. Some time ago, that was 1.5 SAIL. So the exchange rate was, you got less SAIL for each veSAIL. Is that fair to say?
Correct. Yes.
So over time, this exchange rate is going to get better. The number on the right, for every 1 veSAIL, you'll get more, unstaked SAIL.
Yes, correct.
And
yeah.
So if you get it in earlier at a lower exchange rate, you get more veSAIL for your SAIL. And then when that exchange rate goes back, if you end up unstaking it, you're going to get a lot more SAIL back. That's
correct.
where your growth comes from.
Yes.
And now it's smoother. And I was fiddling with the screen. Maybe it's not important, but I'm just explain to me why the 1 month buy, it led to some weird incentives somehow. Can you talk about that? Or maybe we shouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, there's an edge case thing. The team talked about it. This is what happens when you get too many people thinking too deeply about incentives.
Yeah.
Is someone pops up an edge case, and then you like, we
That's
need someone in the room.
gone.
In this case, it was Mark who like put his hand up, was like, but what's the actual real benefit of that? Like, if somebody does all of that and then they look for that benefit, like, what are they, like, in nominal terms going to receive? And it was a few pennies. So we decided not to make addressing that any kind of a priority.
All right, so you can still game Clipper, everyone, but for a couple pennies. So maybe
that's right. That's right. I mean, if you feel like purchasing millions and millions and millions of SAIL, you maybe could turn those pennies into dollars, but it would take you a while. That's right. That's right. I'm happy if you're doing that.
All right. Okay. So let's continue. We talked about the RetroPGF grant. We talked about OP farming. We talked about smoothing the staking. Before we get into the first LP report, is there anything else to talk about? Cove shutdown? Anything people need to know about, or how it went? Anything?
We had one question come up about Coves since the deposit function was deprecated. You can still withdraw from Coves. Your funds are not trapped. In fact, I would encourage you to withdraw from Coves and redeposit into a core pool across whatever your preferred chain or mainnet is. But at the moment, there is no depositing into coves, and that feature's not likely to return in the future.
But
So
the UI's up, just the deposit button, you can't use it. Is
that's
that
right.
right?
Only the withdrawal is available.
But the
So
funny
you
thing
can
is,
you
the
can.
smart contract is out there, so technically you could still deposit into codes, but it's
Mhm.
not going to do
That's
much
right.
for
Yeah,
you.
yeah. I mean, if you wanna
Yeah.
if you wanna be super degen, then go for it. But yeah, we didn't want to disable the smart contract for a number of reasons, and we want to make sure that the withdrawal is still available to
Yeah.
everyone.
Thanks, Jeremy. All right,
Obviously.
last topic, unless I'm forgetting anything, and then we'll go into questions, and there's only a few. People, if you have questions, drop them in chat. You're welcome to do them in the Google form, but it's easier for me to look in chat right now. Uh, do you want to talk about the LP report?
Yeah, let me share my screen real quick.
Okay.
We, as I think everybody knows, uh, at least if you've been following the Discord at all over the last month, we've conducted dozens of interviews. We sent out a survey and got even more dozens of responses. We have a critical mass of information from verified LPs and again, working with blockchain makes this so easy, so much easier than if you're working in Web 2, because you can actually see transaction history. You can validate people's claims that they are LPs, and you can go back and find people who stopped LPing and go talk to them, and they're often very willing to give you information. So this is not as exciting as it'll look when we publish it, but I did want
This
to.
is the behind the scenes
Yeah,
version. No graphics or
this is
emojis or alarm
that's right.
bells.
There's nothing. I mean,
Yeah.
this is just me typing out the findings with the help of my AI partner.
Yeah.
So what we're looking at are really 7 trends that we were able to pull out that we think matter for the future of LPing. The top one, and it's funny that I the the TLDR notes on this were like, LPs are done. LPs are effing done. But really, what it is so many people who LP'd, and I would say not Clipper LPs, so many people who LP'd elsewhere, got burned during the last cycle, especially as things were winding down over 2022, and the value that they thought they were receiving, right? Because they deposited at a and saw an APY figure and thought, great, that'll be what I see in returns, was not at all what they got, when they withdrew their funds. That sort of drives number two, which is an emphasis on profitability, right? People were putting in a certain dollar amount, getting out a lower amount, saying, "What the hell? I thought there were all these APY. There was all this APY," and what was happening is they were just getting these inflated tokens from these DEX platforms that were essentially worthless, right? I mean, you could put a dollar number on them, but it was really hard for these LPs to transact in them, and they were getting like they were just giving up essentially. I mean, we spoke to a number of LPs. I think of the respondents, almost 15%, like almost 1 in 6, had just given up completely on LPing and said, "This isn't something I'm going to be doing in the near future. Like it's just too much work. It's too manual, and there are too many what they called kind of inflationary scams out there." One thing that we thought was really fascinating is the role that stake ETH is now playing in the ecosystem. That's really become kind of the minimum denominator in terms of cost of capital. People are looking at stake ETH and saying, okay, if I'm going to put my money anywhere, it has to be better than staked ETH. And if there is any risk involved, right, if you're adding any beta to it, then it needs to be significant because it's really very kind of low friction, high trust to just go and stake some ETH somewhere. And this was something where we were not totally surprised, but I think surprised at how deep this had gotten into kind of the data set, because almost everyone that we spoke to one-on-one mentioned staked ETH and said, this really is a game changer for me because I don't have to go and kind of chase returns. The returns are there for me. Another thing we saw, and this is something that everyone I think in our community feels, is that large quantitative firms are out there looking to grab every little bit of arbitrage that they can.
Yeah.
And generally that's coming off the backs of, right? They're just kind of cutting into the profits that Ben, people like you, me, members of the community are looking to get. This, I think, was one place where we felt in all the interviews and reading the survey responses prove that Clipper has a place in the market, because Clipper is the arbitrage tool that you can kind of turn back on those quant players and say, not here.
Not today.
So that's right. That's right. At least one DEX comes with a cannon that can shoot back, and Clipper is a place where if you are a large quant hedge fund, you're not going to be able to drain profits from LPs. There was, I'll say, we had this really interesting split because we started surveying in early November, and we started the interviews in early November, and we put the survey out kind of the end of November, beginning of December.
And then the bull, like
before ETH jumped 25%. Yeah. People were saying, like, I'm not sure about 2024, like they were putting their optimism out just past a year. Post spike, everyone was like, yeah, like 6 to 12 months. This, like, I'm feeling bullish on it. So that was fascinating to see how, like, one event can shift expectations that much. The other two are kind of nerdy. One is about benchmarking, which is something that you're going to hear a lot from our team on in the coming years. But in the coming year, there isn't one benchmark out there.
No standard. It's like the XKCD comic about, we need a system, a standardized system of doing this, and then there's just another standardized system.
We're
going to make the standardized system here.
So, one thing that we've found and that we're going to be updating Clipper to show is people choose their own benchmark. So we're not going to pick a benchmark for you. We're not going to say everyone should be benchmarked on the DRP, the daily rebalancing portfolio. In fact, if you want to look at what it would look like if you're benchmarking on ETH or BTC or staked ETH or a daily rebalancing portfolio or USD, here's what it is. That'll give you a clearer sense of your performance on Clipper and a clearer sense of the difference that Clipper is making in your total portfolio. Because one of the reasons you would select DEX that's organized to diversify for you, which is what Clipper's doing, is that it is going to improve your returns in the longer term by taking advantage of volatility rather than exposing you to more volatility. And it's really just about getting better information to LPs and to people who are using the platform.
Jeremy, that's not nerdy. That's empowering. That's beautiful. What a great.
I hope so.
What a great feature.
That's why we're here. Yeah. And then, another thing we saw is that people are really skeptical of altcoins. I mean, which, of course, for a team that works on stables and wrapped BTC and ETH, we're like, okay, cool, that's fine. We're still playing in the right places. But yeah, those were the kind of 7 things that we pulled out of the reports, of the survey and of the interviews. And many of which we're going to be actively building around, including a redesigned LP dashboard on the pool page, so that if you do provide LP to Clipper, you're going to have a much better sense of what your actual profits have been, what your performance has been, and you'll be able to select your benchmark to kind of look at your portfolio against. And then we'll be publishing around kind of how to read that, how to think about that, because we think and we feel validated from all these conversations that there really is a major place for Clipper as a tool, especially one that's decentralized, that's permissionless, that kind of lets you own everything about your experience, but then just provides you a service uh, in the coming bull run. And one thing that we see in this survey is a ton of enthusiasm for the next year or two. So yeah, if you did fill out one of these, thank you so much. It was very helpful. If you were part of the interviews, again, same. And we'll be publishing this week, along with a number of posts on social, kind of pulling out some further insights from all those conversations and surveys.
Thanks, Jeremy. So I have just a few follow-up questions. Some of the basic ones are like, how many people did you interview? Are you planning to do this again? And then a kind of a wider question is, you mentioned the LP dashboard. Maybe you could just drill in and spell it out very specifically, like what's the purpose of these LP interviews and what will you be using them for, and the LP reports as well.
So we absolutely will be doing this again. We will be doing the survey again. I don't know if we'll do as many interviews. We did, I think, just over 50 one-on-one sit down, record them interviews.
That's a lot.
Almost all of them went long too. They were supposed to be just like 15-minute check-ins. Like we just need 15 minutes of your time. And there's some that went almost 45 minutes. So it was awesome, having the opportunity to kind of dive into these things, especially because there's so many LPs out there who value permissionlessness, who really understand why having kind of no central point of control over your funds is important. And they have pretty sophisticated strategies, as they're going out and looking for yield. So they talk about risk in very interesting ways. They also talk about features in very interesting ways. I will say, and maybe I skipped right over this because I was diving into the research. Another thing that we saw and we bring up in the report is there's no one DEX that every LP said, that's where I go. That's my go-to. I think that they're kind of far and away the best. So we can, I think, get kind of caught up looking at TVL, looking at volume, thinking like, oh, there are just a few dominant players in this space. That's not how people in the market are experiencing it. There's a lot of flow that comes through those platforms. It's just bots, just straight up bots. And a lot of times people will start there, but then move over to or onto other platforms. We've noticed a kind of diversification of protocol strategy within the diversification of asset strategy, where people will play a little bit on Sushi, play a little bit on Uniswap, and kind of like move their funds around or have different pockets where they're interacting. So we again saw a pretty clear path to competitiveness because there's not one player out there that just is taking up all the oxygen.
That's great. That's exciting stuff. I thought this was going to be brief and we're already at minute 40. So let's answer some questions and then let me give you one last moment to talk about why staking SAIL is the best, why people might want to do it in the future. But really the questions that I saw, I will just kind of summarize them into, for the most part, people want to talk about listing. It's a lot of interest in SAIL token. So maybe you could talk, it can also go in, so you can wrap this into why staking is important, but like, what are the plans for SAIL? Are there plans to list them on bigger platforms? Like talk about SAIL writ large and the plan for SAIL for the community.
Yeah, so I would say there are two things that are keeping SAIL from being more widely listed. The one is there are listing fees on a number of platforms that we're just not at the moment looking to spend just to get what would be kind of marginal additional exposure to SAIL. The other is the actual kind of listing price of SAIL. The higher that is, the more interest there'll be from other platforms. And eventually it'll get to a point where we won't have to pay those extremely high fees. So it really is just a a matter of looking to be as responsible with the funds that we have to develop and to build, that we don't want to get distracted by spending a ton of money trying to get listed a bunch of places, only to have maybe a few more points or a few more transactions, a few more points of transaction for the token. I think keeping focused on what SaIL is, which is just a tool for the community to engage in governance, and also understanding that the underlying value of SaIL will increase as the platform improves, as use of the platform increases, and as kind of more people come on board and realize what this project is all about. So there will, of course, be more listings, and we've been applying for listings, but often we're on the very go slow road for listing because we're applying for the free listing.
That's great. And speaking of participating, I just want to talk about one of the more recent proposals that's out there.
Sure.
Is the change the target composition for Clipper's Ethereum core pool. This was passed by Captain T, and it looks like we're going to be changing the composition to 1/3 wrapped BTC, wrapped 1/3 ETH, and 1/3 stablecoin. So that was, suggested by the community. Had the votes to pass it, and as always, we encourage the community. You have SaIL tokens, you're a DAO member, and you can set the course of where Clipper is going. So please do participate.
That's right. And one thing in terms of listing, it would help to hear from the community, through proposals, through kind of formal submissions from the DAO, where listings would make sense, right? I heard yesterday, hey, KuCoin's really important for people who are in the UK.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The more information that we have about kind of strategically why different platforms are important to list, the clearer it becomes what level of priority listing on those places would be, and then we can direct our efforts that way. It's really not as simple as just shooting off a message on Telegram to someone over there and saying, hey, list us. There's a whole submission process. There's a lot of due diligence that has to take place on both sides. So in order for us to direct those resources as efficiently and effectively as possible, it helps to hear from the community. This is actually a place where a lot of us are and where we would be able to interact with SaIL more, which is what we want to do. So let us know. Let the DAO know. That's why the DAO is there.
Yeah, we source it from you. Jeremy, what a pleasure as always. So it sounds like our takeaways are: be on the lookout for the RetroPGF grant. That should be hopefully coming in January, and we'll announce about that once we know. Get your funds in the OP core pool, and if you have done that, be looking for an airdrop, but get it in because there will be a secondary airdrop. And
Correct.
Once we have RetroPGF grant funds, then the dev team can start working on kind of self harvesting and self farming.
Sure.
We did the smoothing out of staking on mainnet, and so get your money staked in there because the exchange rate, the growth rate is growing, so you get more SaIL for your veSAIL. And we interviewed a bunch of LPs, and we're going to set the course of Clipper due to that information because community is the North Star. We are the community.
And I just here at the end, especially for the alpha hunters out there, I can't put all the information in the public, but I can say that there is a snapshot also taking place this week of veSAIL holders. It's good for us to get snapshots periodically, and we're taking one.
Yeah. So put your makeup on, put a nice hat, get a great picture of yourself holding a few bags of veSAIL. Who knows? Might be good to do that. Jeremy, what a pleasure as always. I'm gonna give everyone the rest of their Friday back, and as always, I guess it's just back to work.
That's right. For those who celebrate, happy holidays in the coming days and weeks. Happy New Year to those who have a new year coming up. And for everyone else, thanks for joining.
Yeah, what a pleasure. I'm going to hit stop recording. So bye, YouTube.